Through her short but impactful reign, Mary Tudor left an indelible mark in history. Mary was born on February 18, 1516, as the eldest daughter of King Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. Despite her mother experiencing multiple miscarriages, Mary was the only surviving child to reach adulthood. 3 days after her birth, she was baptized as a Catholic at the Observant Friars Church in Greenwich, England. Mary's presence was warmly welcomed by the kingdom, and she was dearly loved by both of her parents. However, for her father, politics always took priority. When Mary was 2 years old, she was used as a diplomatic tool and betrothed to the Dauphin of France, who was also 2 years old at the time. They were even paired with engagement rings. However, the engagement was cancelled after 4 years. Other arranged marriages for Mary also failed to materialize. From a young age, Mary was educated and taught music and languages by her mother and scholars. As a result, she grew up to be a proficient woman in both fields. In 1525, Mary, who was then the Princess of Wales, was sent by her father, Henry VIII, to live on the Welsh border. At the same time, her father was involved in arranging a marriage for her. However, her father had other plans. Henry VIII desired a male heir, and this desire was not fulfilled with Catherine, Mary's mother. He fell in love with a woman named Anne Boleyn, who was one of his wife's ladies-in-waiting. Henry VIII decided to divorce Catherine in order to marry Anne Boleyn. The tumultuous end of her parents' second marriage was marked by a major dispute with the Roman Catholic Church. When the Vatican refused to recognize her father's divorce from her mother, it triggered a broader conflict known as the English Reformation. This Reformation resulted in the separation of England from the authority of the Roman Catholic Church and the establishment of the independent Church of England. In the end, Henry married Anne and was blessed with a daughter named Elizabeth, who would later become Queen Elizabeth I of England. However, Elizabeth's birth as a daughter meant that Mary became the potential heir to the throne. At the time, traditional views on succession tended to prioritize male heirs, particularly in terms of political stability and the continuity of the dynasty. Therefore, Elizabeth's birth, which placed Mary as a potential heir to the throne, made Henry VIII worried about future challenges and conflicts regarding the succession. Henry VIII wanted to ensure that his child from his marriage to Anne Boleyn, especially if it was a son, would be a legitimate heir and have a stronger claim to the throne. To achieve this goal, Henry VIII urged Parliament to pass laws declaring that Mary was no longer considered a legitimate heir to the throne. And it happened. This action subsequently affected Mary's relationship with her father and the government. Mary was excluded from the succession by Henry VIII and his government. She was even prohibited from meeting her mother. After the death of King Henry VIII on January 28, 1547, the throne of England was succeeded by his son, Edward VI. Edward VI was the son of Henry's third wife, Jane Seymour. He was born on October 12, 1537, and ascended to the throne at the age of 9. Edward VI ruled England under the influence of his advisors, particularly those who supported the Protestant religion. His government aimed to continue and strengthen the Protestant Reformation that had been initiated by his father. Edward VI's policies leaned towards Protestantism and sought to diminish the influence of the Catholic Church in England. Many Catholic churches and monasteries were seized, and their properties were handed over to nobles and supporters of the Reformation. In the reign of Edward VI, the Book of Common Prayer was introduced in 1549. This prayer book served as the foundation for Protestant worship and church ceremonies. Additionally, in an effort to eliminate Catholic rituals, images and statues in churches were destroyed or removed. At the age of 15, Edward VI passed away on July 6, 1553, due to tuberculosis. Following his death, a succession dispute erupted in England. In an attempt to uphold Protestant teachings, Jane Grey, a distant relative and granddaughter of Henry VIII's sister, Lady Frances Grey, was given the throne by a group of advisors supporting the Reformation. Her ascension to the throne as Queen of England was part of the Reformation group's efforts to counter the resurging influence of Catholicism under the reign of Mary Tudor. However, Jane Grey's reign lasted only 9 days, from July 10 to July 19, 1553. Despite being placed on the throne by reformist advisors, her support among the general public and nobility was not strong enough. Meanwhile, Public support leaned more towards Mary, the rightful successor of Edward VI. Mary managed to gather forces and gain broader support, ultimately seizing power from Jane Grey, which led to Jane Grey's execution. On July 19, 1553, Mary Tudor was proclaimed as Queen Mary I of England. Mary I became the first queen to rule England in her own right, not through marriage to a king. During Mary I's reign, she became involved in a controversial marriage with Philip II of Spain. Mary I and Philip II were married on July 25, 1554, and Philip II became King of England and Ireland as the husband of Queen Mary I. This marriage raised many concerns and controversies in England. One major concern was the issue of succession. Mary I and Philip II did not have any surviving children. Therefore, if Mary I were to die without an heir, the English throne could fall into the hands of Philip II or another Catholic successor, further strengthening Catholic influence in the country. This raised concerns among the nobility and the populace, who were more inclined towards Protestantism. However, the most notable aspect of Mary I's reign, which lasted from 1553 to 1558, was her fight to restore the power and influence of Catholicism in England. Mary I remained steadfast in her Catholic faith and aimed to end the Protestant Reformation initiated by her father and stepbrother, Edward VI. One significant step taken by Mary Tudor was the restoration of relations with the Holy See in Rome. In 1554, she signed an agreement known as the Treaty of Ardagh with Pope Paul IV. This treaty acknowledged the return of Catholic Church authority in England and arranged for the reintegration of the English Church with the Holy See. As part of the efforts to strengthen Catholicism, Mary Tudor adopted a pro-Catholic policy involving the persecution of Protestant individuals. Many Protestants, considered enemies of the faith, were accused of heresy and sentenced to death. The policy of persecution included public executions, including burning Protestants at the stake. Notable victims included John Rogers, a Protestant clergyman executed in 1555, and Hugh Latimer and Nicholas Ridley, two Reformation figures who were put to death in 1555. Religious persecution also involved arrests, imprisonment, exile, and financial penalties imposed on Protestant individuals. During Mary I's reign, approximately 300 to 400 people were executed for religious reasons. However, debates regarding the number of victims and the duration of the persecution continue among historians. Mary Tudor's policy of religious persecution faced resistance from several Protestant groups who fled to Protestant countries in Europe, such as Switzerland and Germany. They portrayed Mary Tudor as a cruel and intolerant ruler, and the epithet, Bloody Mary, became associated with her reputation. Mary I passed away on November 17, 1558. The English throne was then inherited by her half-sister, Elizabeth I, the daughter of Anne Boleyn. Elizabeth I, a Protestant, restored the Protestant Reformation in England and became one of the renowned rulers in English history. Mary I's marriage to Philip II and the lack of surviving descendants marked the end of the Tudor lineage. After Elizabeth I, the English throne passed to the Stuart dynasty with the ascension of King James I in 1603.